Yes, sir.
We're good, we're good, we're good. I'm getting the thumbs up from the man with the master plan. I can also hear myself. It's not too loud, I hope, for this very good-looking audience of people, of talented architects, designers, urban planners. Good evening and welcome to Real Matter 2025. Up first, as we begin our formal program, we have Matt Griffiths, a principal architect with In Situ Studio. Please make some noise.
Thanks, Nick. Nick didn't mention it, but this is the fifth year of Real Matter. And in the 5 years we've been doing this, I've gone from not needing these glasses to needing these glasses. So this is a change. This is a really big deal for us in our office. This is really a passion project, something we've done for the last 5 years and worked really hard to organize with the support of tons of sponsors. And it feels like a really big deal to be in Union Hall, and it feels like a really big deal to have all of you here, and it feels like a really big deal to have the mayor speaking tonight. So thank you so much, Mayor Cowell, for being here. I want to say a couple of words of thanks. First, I want to thank Nick. Our entire team in our office. In fact, I should probably have them stand up. If you work in Situ Studios, stand up. There's only 6 of us. Yay. Joel somewhere. He's in the back. I think everybody knows we help organize this thing, but very few people are aware of how much energy Nick Neptune puts behind the scenes into helping us with this. He's a constant voice of advice and guidance and helps organize a lot of the kind of activations beforehand and help us spread the word. So Nick, thank you so much for all of your help with us every year. Yep. I also want to thank everybody who's come tonight. The reason we started this is we thought that there could be much better conversations about design happening in Raleigh. Raleigh, as you know, is one of the fastest growing cities in the country. And it's happening around us whether we want it to or not. And it's happening in ways that are good and ways that sometimes aren't as great. And we really think that there should be people talking about design and talking about the importance of design and talking about who design is for in the city as this happens. And that's why we started Real Matter. And so Real Matter is 2 things. It's this public lecture series that you're attending tonight. This is the first of 7 nights. We hope you'll keep coming. We know we've asked a lot of you to come to more than one event in 10 days. We've actually hoped you'll come to 7 events in 10 days. We'll be at all of them, so I think you can do it. But these are all meant to be conversations about our city, about design that's happening here, and about design that's happening in other places that's really good that we can kind of use as a precedent as we think about how our city is growing. So thank you for being here tonight. I hope you'll come every night if you can, and if you enjoyed tonight, help us spread the word. The other half of the workshop that I think a lot of you are probably less familiar with is the actual studio part or the workshop part of the workshop. This year we have 16 people from 7 different universities here who are going to spend 2 weeks with us working on design projects in downtown Raleigh. These are projects that are geared towards challenges that downtown Raleigh faces, from connectivity to having a nice streetscape to access to parks and shaded spaces, to a connection to Dix Park, things that we know our city struggles with. And we have these 16 really talented young designers here with us for 2 weeks to work on these projects and hopefully put forward really good what-if proposals for how we can address these things. So I told them I was going to do this. I want to put them on the spot. They're supposed to be up front here. If y'all could all stand real quick. Yay. I think y'all deserve the biggest thanks. You've taken a bit of a risk. Most of these folks are working for the summer before they go back to school in about 2 or 3 weeks, and they have chosen to be here for the last 2 weeks of their summer to work on big ideas in our city and hopefully propose some great ideas. So thanks for being here. I'm going to do that every night, by the way. So get ready for that. The last thing I need to acknowledge are our sponsors. We have 45 sponsors this year, which is a big deal. And we raised more money than we have ever before, which is one of the reasons we're in this space and going to be in Junction West for all of the events subsequent. And it's a really big deal to us. And a lot of the folks who sponsor the workshop are other architects in town. I think one of the most special things about Raleigh is that it is a design city. It has been a design city since the founding of the College of Design in 1948. Architects here don't compete and fight with each other. They work with each other and collaborate with each other, other designers as well, and care a lot about this city. And the number of sponsors we have and the number of them that are direct competitors of our firm are evidence of this. We don't have the banners hanging up here tonight. We will when we get to Junction West. When you're headed down the stairs, you can see all the sponsors on the wall. There's a banner hanging there. Please notice them. It would not be possible without them. A few that I have to mention specifically are Myriad Media, who are running our live stream tonight. They're a co-sponsor. They do this at a major discount for us. It's a very expensive enterprise, and they're here out of the goodness of their heart to make sure that this is broadcast as far and wide as it can. Raleigh Architecture and Construction Companies, most of you know them probably as our biggest competitor in town, and they are also our biggest donors over the last 5 years. So thanks. I know Craig's here somewhere. I'm wearing my glasses, so I can't see anybody, but yeah, he's right there. Thanks, Craig, for being here and for your support. And then Mainland Creative, who have been working on a new website for the workshop that will be launched later this year. One other sponsor that I want to introduce tonight is the sponsor for tonight's events. We do have a sponsor for each of the 7 lecture nights. And tonight's sponsor is Coda Home Builders. Jonathan Graben is here from Coda Home Builders. They build some of the most demanding residential projects in the city, designed by architects, many different architects in the city. Jonathan's been a friend for several years, and we really are very thankful for the support this year, Jonathan. And with that, thanks again for coming. I'm going to hand it over to him to say a few words, and then we'll get on with the evening. Thank you.
All right. Hello, everybody. Thank you for coming. I really would just like to express my gratitude to Matt and the entire In Situ team, really everybody who has worked so hard to put this together. We can get another round of applause for those guys. I just want to say that as a builder, I've had an opportunity to build a lot of wonderful houses through the last 10 years. And it is, well, I'll just say that as a builder, I am keen on design. I would really credit design as the most important aspect for a project's long-term success. And for that reason, I'm honored to support the Real Matter Workshop, and I'm going to give it to Nick. Thank you very much.
My friends, I promise to keep it brief. I have 3 quick notes to share with the team here. 1, a housekeeping note. 2, a note of gratitude. And 3, and finally, an introduction for our mayor. On the housekeeping note, I do want to point out that we have a terrific and refreshing beverage station. Please stay hydrated. There's a heat advisory. I don't know if you noticed. So I encourage you to participate in the beverage station. I want to give a quick shout out to Suzanne Botts, the VIP of the evening for this trophy wife. Thank you, Suzanne. Thank you. It should also be noted, Suzanne has been here year after year after year, committed, right, to participating and engaging with the Real Matter Workshop, and even beyond that. If I'm not mistaken, Suzanne, are you involved with the League of Women Voters? Is that right? Thank you. Look, I mean, we're talking decades of service to our community. Thank you, Suzanne Botts. And Carmen Cawthon, don't think I don't see you sitting right next to her. Carmen Cawthon also, you talking about decades of service to our community. Let's make some noise for Carmen Cawthon in the audience. I see you. All right now. I should also mention, it was brought to my attention, if you have an open tab with the bar, please be sure to close your tab with the bar. Okay, so again, if you have an open tab, please be sure to close said tab at the bar. Housekeeping note number 2, restrooms. You might have to go. Look, we're all human beings here, okay? For those of you who do not know, it's just straight down the hall to your right on the other side of this wonderful curtain situation, okay? So just down the hall on the right-hand side, we've got lovely, clean facilities, okay? So yeah, please help yourselves as you need. And then last but not least, I want to make a note about Q&A. So in addition to hearing from Raleigh's coolest mayor, Janet Cowell, you will have an opportunity to engage in a Q&A. And I think this year, as we've done in past years, we will have 2 mics out in the audience ready, all right, to call on you, okay? So I hope as you're listening this evening, as you're thinking of questions, if you need to pull the cell phone out and make some notes, do so, okay? Because I believe our mayor is ready, right, to answer, right, and be engaged in conversation with you. last but not least, in terms of housekeeping, it was brought to my attention via a text message en route to the stage. This is a note for our friends with Myriad Media. Myriad Media. We have friends who are watching from home. Hello, those of you at home. It's been brought to our attention that when the far back camera is on, not great. You got it? Under control. Love that. Look at us, problem solving in real time. That's what we do in the city of Raleigh. Thank you very much. Thank you. Yep, you can make some noise for us. That's right. That's right. Okay, and I think with that, we can get into my brief note of gratitude. You know, a few days ago, I shared just briefly online with friends and colleagues a note of gratitude. Great people come to us not for us to be supplicants, but they come to us so that we can understand the greatness within us. They come as models for us. Models for us. This is the words of Eddie S. Glaude, a professor at Princeton University. As Matt Griffith mentioned, this is, in fact, my 5th year of partnership with the very talented architecture firm of In Situ Studio and organizing a little kickoff event for the Real Matter workshop and lecture series. 2 weeks of free public opportunity to listen, learn, and engage with models of our greatness, models of our potential, models of our collective capacity to build and shape the neighborhoods, the communities, the cities that we live in. In other words, Dr. Glaude's reminder regarding truly great people resonates as deeply as ever, especially now in 2025. I am deeply grateful for the privilege of the partnership and work with In Situ Studio in organizing this annual kickoff, along with abundant gratitude for the many organizing sponsors and partners that have made this entire 2-week event possible. I'm particularly thankful for all the friends and the colleagues coming together this year to share the ways in which they are contributing to our community and our culture, making this city the remarkable place that it is, and serving as models for the rest of us. I want to give a special shout out and thanks to DJ Mikey Sharks of One Speaker Radio, Ryan Coca of Super Empty, North Carolina's Hip Hop Journal, the Bike Library Shop and Cafe, celebrating, I believe, their grand opening coming up on August 8th, if I'm not mistaken. Our City in Pictures there in the back corner, photography by Brett Vienna. And of course, our friends with City Builder, our Raleigh City Planning Team, and our Raleigh Transportation Team. Many thanks to all of you for being here tonight. And with that, please allow me a moment to properly introduce and welcome our mayor. Janet Cowell was elected Raleigh's mayor in 2024. She serves as the vice chair of the Safe, Vibrant, and Healthy Community Committee and the vice chair of the Economic Development and Innovation Committee. Janet Cowell has 15 years of prior public service, including as Raleigh City Councilor, the North Carolina State Senator, and North Carolina's State Treasurer. The first, and just hear me on this, the first and the only woman elected to serve as North Carolina State Treasurer. I mean, we should just make some noise for that alone. Come on now. Come on now. I mean, it's worth observing she managed over $100 billion in pension assets and administered the state health plan for over 900,000 state and local government workers and retirees. Before being elected mayor, Janet Cowell worked closely with the city of Raleigh as the president and CEO of the Dorothea Dix Park Conservancy. Ever heard of it? Ever heard of it? The Conservancy works very closely with the city to create, of course, Dorothea Dix Park, this 308-acre landscape, just 1 mile from downtown Raleigh. During her tenure, Janet was able to raise over $40 million in private funding to help create our public park. She oversaw the completion and the renovation and the adaptive reuse projects that occurred with the Greg Poole Jr. All Faiths Chapel, the Stone Houses, the new Visitor Center, and she also established a significant public arts program featuring local, national, and global artists. Yeah, she did this, okay? She did this. Let's take a note. Let's just take a note. Cowell has served on numerous boards throughout her career. She has served 8 years on the North Carolina Board of Education, the North Carolina Community College Board, and she currently chairs the Wharton School of Business Executive Education Program. Y'all, this is our mayor, our mayor. I'm just saying, it's something to be proud about, okay? Originally from Memphis, Tennessee, Cowell is a graduate of the University of Pennsylvania and earned her MBA and MA in International Studies from the Wharton School of Business and the Lauder Institute. My friends, would you join me in a round of applause for our capital city mayor, Janet Cowell?
Well, we are very fortunate to have Nick Neptune in our community and to introduce me. He's always over the top. I am very happy to be here and excited that we have 16 really talented folks that are going to think about Raleigh, bring your ideas, bring your experience, fresh perspective. I will say I care a lot about these things, so I will definitely be consuming your thoughts, and I know the City Council will as well, so just really appreciate you doing this, and of course in situ for having this sort of convening for 5 years and bringing together this whole creative community here that just makes Raleigh such a special place to be. And as Matt said, I mean, we have a lot of traditions here. We're 1792 city. We've got a lot of history and a lot of good design elements. We're also growing super fast, which puts a lot of pressure on how do we maintain the balance as we meet the needs of the residents of this city. So happy to be with you, and I'm just gonna start. Today is Summer in the City. I'm from Memphis, as was noted in my bio, and so my earliest memories of summer in the city were in Memphis, and as you can tell from this old postcard, there's plenty of water, and it's on the Mississippi River, and you can see that's highlighted prominently there. I was born there, we lived there for a while, and then we moved, but we would always go back to Memphis every summer to see the grandparents. And then, so we drove an Impala, Chevrolet Impala, and every summer I had a July birthday, we would have an ice cream birthday cake to beat the heat. You just wish all your problems with heat and flooding and all these issues in the South could be solved with something as simple as a Baskin-Robbins cake. Not so. So then coming to Raleigh, I have been here since the late 1990s, and it was interesting just when you look at these postcards, there ain't no water to be seen on this. Of course, the Neuse River is, east of town, but it's all architecture, all about being the capital city, although it looks like Carter Finley Stadium here, Governor's Mansion, but it's interesting just how much this is all about architecture. So again, this sort of backdrop for our 16 folks is, you can see that in, like 1900, 15,000 people, and just the amount of growth, 70% of that has been since the 1980s. and we are now 150 square miles, bordered on the north with Falls Lake watershed. We're now reaching the Neuse River on the east, and then, of course, just boundaries with all these other municipalities, the other 11 in Wake County, as we have grown. This is the 1872 map of Raleigh, and going back to our planning roots, this is the William Christmas Plan, which is modeled off the Philadelphia William Christmas Plan. Since I went to Penn, very familiar with that. But this one has, instead of City Hall, as it is in Philadelphia, of course we have the capital city, the 4 squares, not super easy to see on this map. But what's also interesting to me about this is that you would think this was Kansas. I mean, looks completely flat, no water. It sort of just obfuscates the fact that this is a southern city on the edge of the Piedmont going towards a coastal plain, and there is all sorts of water and changes in the topography of the city. So this is an elevation map that just shows the more realistic perspective of Raleigh, which is, you can see to the red there is about 500 feet, and it goes down to like 150 feet in the blue. So if you're gonna bike, you definitely wanna bike from west to east in this town. And if you're gonna bike long distances, I suggest you go down to the coastal plain, because the northern sections is a lot of hills. And all of these, undulations between, it's usually 300-400 feet when you're going up and down between creeks. So again, a much more realistic map here of the waterways that are part of the special, landscape of Raleigh, but also create challenges. So the Neuse River to the east that we've now hit through growth, but then the Crabtree Creek to the north, Walnut Creek to the south, and you can see all those floodplains. A lot of the flooding that we have here is along those 2 major tributaries of the Neuse River, because that's where a lot of the development has been. And then just showing, again, summer in the city. Not only is it hot, but it is rainy. We all know we're in hurricane season right now, so it starts in the, around June 1st. You can see the rainfall in August, July, August, September, the period we're in now. Just the USA Today said we should have a 60% chance of a worse than usual or busier than usual hurricane season. So more to come as we get into the next few months. This is an urban heat map of Raleigh that was put together in 2021 with the City of Raleigh, working with a lot of different partner organizations through NOAA program. But here you can just see where do you have these urban heat locations. And you can see downtown Raleigh. I'll show you a map in a minute. The stretch up to the right is Capitol Boulevard. Then you can see out towards the airport, right, Briar Creek up in the far northwest. And then you have the cool spots like Umstead State Park, Dix Park, some of these other greenway and park systems that create cooling areas. This, if you could map the 2 on there, you can see the heat follows, right, the density, and that we have a lot of nodes in Raleigh, so it's not just one core downtown area. North Hills, as we were talking earlier, has just said they're going to put out requests for additional towers. That, I was on council in 2001, and remember the first rezoning there as that start of this 25-year redevelopment of that whole section of town, of course downtown, and then you see, Briar Creek, the Lenovo Center out there, NC State, and some of the density around there. So I was at a group of other mayors, and they're like, we're pretty jealous of that map of distributed tax value. So I've kind of framed a lot of the context of the city of Raleigh when it comes to heat and water. And the city has, and I know there's a number of you here that work on this, has a very proactive approach towards mitigating heat and water, and then also just adapting when there are ways that you can't fully mitigate. This is a picture here of the smart surfaces. I think Reverend Jermon Taylor, who was your speaker last year, mentioned this, but I really wasn't fully aware of it, that we have these treatments that can both lower heat and lower pollution through different technologies. So I think that's a really interesting program. More traditionally, shade, right, bus stops, trees, urban design, green stormwater infrastructure, splash parks. That was the first picture you saw there was Gibson Play Plaza, which hopefully all of our visiting, I don't know what your interns, fellows, what the exact title is, will get a chance to go see it's both a splash pad, waterfall, like all sorts of water play that provide sort of cooling elements in the park. Adaptation, you can see here like cooling centers, more to come on this, weatherization, and different neighborhood networks. So lots of activity in the city. So recently I was doing research on, Chapel Hill had these huge floods, right, just a few weeks ago with six folks lost their lives tragically, and that was not just Chapel Hill, it was also Mebane, I think Chatham County, but areas just to the west of us, and the mayor of Chapel Hill actually did request, and the city is providing inspectors as they try to recover from that flood. I was asking our city team, well, how do we know how we are versus, those communities? Could we flood just like they flooded if the cloud had dropped it, on Raleigh? There is a rating system on flooding. We are a 5 out of 10 as of this later in 2025. There's an October 2025 rating, and that's where we're ranked a 5. And that's with 1 being the highest, 10 being the lowest. We're right in the middle. I was looking at all the cities in North Carolina. We are kind of in the middle. There's a lot of cities, 6 to 8. That's where Chapel Hill, a lot of those communities that just flooded were around that range. Charlotte's a 2. I don't know exactly everything that they've done. I have toured Charlotte. I know they've got some pretty major stream restoration programs. They've done FEMA buyout. I mean, we have done some of those programs too. But we have more to learn to, what's getting them those higher rates. We have had a stormwater system for 20 years. In fact, when I was on the council the first time, we created the stormwater system. At the time, it was called the rain tax, and I was called a watermelon, a communist on the inside and an environmentalist on the outside for promoting this rain tax. But I think we're all happy now that we have a stormwater system, and we've got $1 billion of capital infrastructure planned over the next 25 years for this system. So it's the largest. That also includes water and stormwater, but it is our largest capital expenditure in the city. So as I mentioned, I appreciate these kinds of deliberations on design, and I was recently at the Mayor's Institute on City Design. We were met in Providence, Rhode Island, and I was presenting a project that looked at greenway-oriented development, trying to reorient towards the creeks and streams of Raleigh to celebrate those, but also to have respect for them because, again, as we just know, flooding is possible and even probable as we get more and more extreme weather. Their feedback to me was, thinking about the sponge city. Now, some of you may have been familiar with this, but for me, that was sort of a new concept of how can you get, buy-in across all residential, the citizens of a given city to distribute all of this stormwater infrastructure so that you can save and not have to do all the big, heavy, gray, concrete, right, sort of things. And the city is working on these kind of things with rain gardens that people can qualify for. And of course, we have this huge park system. We have a greenway system. So clearly, we have invested in these kinds of things, but there's a lot more to do. And I love the idea of actually packaging these things. The group I was with suggested we get an artist in residence to work with our stormwater team, because engineers are not always the best at communicating, right, these sort of creative ideas and translating technical topics to everyday citizens. Here's some of those kind of less inspirational but incredibly important parts of our system. And this gets to a little more of the inspirational, more modern efforts on green infrastructure, where we are shifting a lot of the City of Raleigh team away from the gray concrete, metal stuff, and more towards these sorts of projects that you're seeing. We were joking that Lake Johnson, which is a lake, I love Lake Johnson, I go there a lot. It's got good, like 5-mile loop running trail. There were a lot of people out there kayaking yesterday. That is the water management for downstream Walnut Creek. So that is not only an important park and recreational area, but provides water management. We have this Raleigh Rainwater Rewards, and we also have all these watershed studies. Pigeon Branch, we're hoping to daylight. That is a branch of a creek in the Smoky Hollow Park that is buried. So that will be daylighted and restored. You've also got a lot of efforts in the Walnut Creek. Rocky Branch is another stream restoration that's also at Dix Park, and Marsh Creek. So we have 3 active watershed studies. Picture of a flooding house. One thing, again, this is sort of part of the city's planning and design, is to try and get people who built homes, who built structures back in the 1950s, 1960s, out of these zones and just buy them out. The city has bought 44 different properties over the last 25 years, including 2 motels, a bowling alley, a coffee shop. So I think a lot of that stuff I'm thinking is on Capitol Boulevard. Crabtree Valley Mall is not one of those properties. We all know that was a challenging decision back in the 60s. So we are actively, and then we have a lot of tools for citizens on, you can look at your house, see what your flood risk is. There's a lot of storm tracking systems that I've downloaded, so I get a lot of calls all the time. All right, so then shifting into heat. We ranked 10th out of 47, being like 1 being the best, on US cities for heat resilience. And I don't know whether this index is the best, benchmark, but I was just looking for different ways to figure out where does Raleigh kind of compare with other cities. I will say, I was looking at this metrics, and it was on a website that has said, this website is no longer being updated. So already some of these tools that I'm finding very useful, we're finding that they will be discontinued under the budget cuts. But this takes into account exposure, which clearly as a southern city, we have exposure, sensitivity, and then how well we can adapt. And here we scored better. So we had 27 points, which, it's a little confusing on here. But so again, we're 10th out of 47. Charlotte ranked below us. Austin ranked below. So we did better than Charlotte, always competitive in these matters on heat resilience. So what are we doing here? Street trees. One of the things I learned recently is that, we think about all the parks and people's yards, but about 25% of your land mass in any city is just the streets and then the right-of-way to those streets. So there's a lot that can be done with street trees and stormwater right along, the main streets of the city. And then there's been a lot of work on, by the city on where are these areas of the city that don't have trees, that need, more investment of both trees, stormwater, cool pavement. Just giving you another example, back from Gibson Play Plaza, we saw the splash pad. This is more about shade. You can see in the little model on the left all the shade tarps that were designed to go over slides. Even with all that forethought and design, it was hot on those slides, and they had to go put up even more shade structures. So even good designers have to adapt and tweak their designs, but you can just see the amount of attention. All of this planning, too, in this Gibson Play Plaza. I've become a total playground snob because you realize so many playgrounds are not well designed for anybody. I mean, you got the kids out there playing, but the parents are baking. There's nowhere to sit down. There's no shade. You don't have, like, controlled entrances around the playground. So just the amount of thought that goes into a playground like this is an amazing thing to learn about. So this is another, we have 38 community centers in Raleigh. Again, we've had this incredible legacy of a park network and investment in these community centers. Many of them need, renovation. We've had a large park bond recently, and a number will be getting upgrades. As we think about those upgrades, you can also double a community center as a resilience hub, right, so that you can do everyday community activities there, but in the event of heat indexes like today, if the power goes out, if there's flooding, trying to get to some of these centers so that they can be, right, a center of sort of a optionality for people who need air conditioning or other services. This is just all the work we are doing on educating and activating residents for climate action. We are actually a recipient of the Bloomberg Foundation. As you know, Mayor Bloomberg is investing probably more than anybody globally in mayors, and that we have some innovation team folks with the city working on how do we educate and activate residents around heat and flooding, building resilient spaces, and we have a new city hall going up. Some of the design there, that's by a Danish architect. We'll have, some of these improvements from our current city hall, and then just heat hazard mitigation. This was the citizen science data collection where we had 165 volunteers working with Partners for Environmental Justice, Wake County, NC State Climate Office, mapping all of these heat across Raleigh and Wake County, and then trying to use all that information so that people, right, can mitigate and prepare for all of these different things that can happen. These are just, in the end, when I was talking to Matt about summer in the city, heat, water, it's like, what are some places that you think of that have really inspired you? This is the High Line, which just the fact that this was a reuse of existing infrastructure, but how much they incorporated green and plantings and art, and of course, I mean, it spurred all this redevelopment and acted as a catalyst. It is a pretty amazing project that definitely inspires me. Last year, I went to Singapore and went to Gardens by the Bay. There's nothing like going to Asia to humble you. You're like, oh my gosh, like a 5-story rainforest in a massive biosphere. Yeah, I could do that. Like, we can take this back to Raleigh. And then, of course, these a massive, which I guess these are emission, like steam release, but, with all this green kind of vines coming up and these just incredible trees. I mean, Singapore was just, a stunning amount of architecture and green infrastructure there. This is just another inspirational now from Europe. This was in Berlin in the Tiergarten. Just, a summer evening, I think about a summer ago, and just all the crowds out there by the lake with the string lights enjoying a beer on a summer evening. And then this is Charlotte. This is the stream restoration and some of the work they've done there, which not only have environmental components, but a lot of interpretation and historical markers and recognition of local history, in addition to all the other, features. So not too far away. And then, of course, it's your projects that are going to be coming up on the Tarboro corridor, some of the work in the warehouse district where we are now, as well as the crossing western to Dix, which is, we have several corridors in the city, Capitol Boulevard and Western, which are the, urban renewal projects that people probably wish had been done very differently, and how we cross over those scars that kind of cut the city is an important one, so I'll be interested in y'all's thoughts on those. So just closing with some of the projects that you'll be working on, and as Nick Neptune said, I am happy to take questions, but just appreciate all of this community's work on making Raleigh more resilient to heat, water, and all the issues of living in this city in the summer. Thank you.
Could we have one more round of applause for Mayor Janet Cowell, please? That's right. That's right. We're talking about the city of Raleigh. All right, my friends, real quick, before we jump into questions, which I imagine there could be a few, I want to share with you, we're kicking things off tonight with our capital city mayor. But tomorrow evening, we will continue this conversation just right next door at Junction West with some incredibly talented thought leaders, again, from the city, from the county. You might have heard of them. Mitchell Silver, okay, former planning and development director, former New York City Parks Commissioner, now serving on Raleigh City Council from District A, if I am not mistaken. We've also got Julie White, the North Carolina Department of Transportation Deputy Secretary for Multimodal Transportation. Are you trying to walk around your city? Are you trying to bike somewhere? You want to get there safely? Literally, this woman is trying to make it happen all across the state. I'm just saying. She's got a few things to say. And then last but not least, I think we have Lorena McDowell. Lorena McDowell, is that right? We're talking an affordable housing expert. Sounds like we would like an affordable place to live in, and she knows how to do it. So we have all these people coming out tomorrow night at Junction West, and the panel will be moderated by the Raleigh Magazine publisher, Gina Stevens. I'm just saying, this is like a powerhouse panel. I mean, again, we got the freaking capital city mayor over here. But we're going to keep this conversation. Yes, you can clap for it. You can clap for it. We're going to keep this conversation going tomorrow, and I hope to see you there. I hope to see you there. Okay. With that noted, any questions for the? Oh, I see him, and I'm going to start in the back. We'll work our way front. But I see some hands. Is this Eric Braun, the executive director of Raleigh Ford, sir? You have a question?
You have the memory of I don't know who, but it's incredible. Mayor Cowell, thanks for being here, and I want to thank you because you travel and you are exploring, big, tough projects that other folks have done around the country, around the world. And, one thing I've always kind of felt about Raleigh, we kind of play small ball, and we've been very successful. But I think I'm excited that you're looking for kind of bigger, more challenging.
Watch out, Singapore.
Yep. I've been there too. It's the benevolent dictatorship does lend itself to more efficient decision making.
Yes,
Has some downsides too.
Yeah.
But I just wanted to ask you about your thoughts on how do we as a community, come together to embrace some of these bigger, more challenging projects that I think can elevate, from where Raleigh is today to becoming a major city that, is a player on the national stage.
Yeah, well, Eric, of course, I appreciate what you do, and that's a great question. I mean, we do have such a powerful community here, and I would ask back to y'all, like, how can I help this community be even more contributory than it is, right? We have this incredible design school, architects, builders, and how do we come together? I was just with the mayor of Fayetteville, Arkansas, which also has an incredible design school, and she was talking about some of the buildings throughout Fayetteville that are just noteworthy in terms of design, and how do you continue that legacy. So I do think that this idea of using artists and the creative in the technical spaces and having artists in residence and things like stormwater units would be helpful, because I do think especially transportation, not that Julie White is amazing, but transportation is probably the worst of all of them, in just eye-rolling stultification of just not understanding exactly what they're saying. And then I would say some of the water systems is probably a close second. So if there's ways to get more creative on how we frame these things, market them, and communicate, I'm all for that.
Thank you. Do we have a question? I see Carmen Cawthon's hand over here. Anybody over on this side? I want to be fair. Oh, I think we have on this side. We'll bounce back and forth. We want to try to, Thank you, Kelly. Whoa, I see Kelly with the microphone, passing it off. Thank you, Kelly.
Good evening, Mayor.
Hello. It's another great day in paradise.
It's another amazing day in paradise. That's right, that's right. I wasn't sure if you would notice me with the hat.
Yes, this is Mama Kai.
Mama Kai. And that's my superhero name, because I found my superpowers being the mom and student of a young black male superhero. I consider ourselves Raleigh's most famous unhoused people, because in order to address housing, I really needed to get involved, and it was a choice between living below the standard that I'm trying to create for me and my son, and getting involved to find solutions, only to find more problems. And so I just want to say thank you for being here, for all the work that you do to study, and also happy 5 years to in situ. I've been here for the last 3 years. There are projects that are gonna come are gonna be amazing, because I've seen the ones that the other groups have done. And so I really hope that this year we will take some serious consideration, because the projects have been definitely worth looking into and implementing. But my question is, the topic for this year is, are we there yet? And I know that for all of the districts, that one of the big requests was sidewalks. And we know that we don't have the right amount of sidewalks, because when council 25, 30 years ago could have made the developers put them in, they didn't. So my question is about, what are we doing to engage children who are gonna inherit city of Raleigh and lead it in 25 years? What are we doing to engage them so that Raleigh is a city, not only that they love, but that they can afford to stay in? And so that's what my question is.
Yep. Well, I appreciate your advocacy and work on housing and many other issues in our city and trying to make it better. In terms of youth engagement, I would just say I think probably the strongest is in our Parks and Rec, as you know, because we have a lot of Parks and Rec program for youth. And we have youth employment programs. Just at Dix Park Conservancy, we had a whole lands management where we would bring in high school students and work with NC State to train folks just to have exposure to what does it mean to work in public land management. And I know Nick Neptune wowed and got nice thank you notes many times from those kids. And we've also had youth on different citizen advisory panels. I will say a new tool that we're using around the comprehensive plan is a citizen assembly, which is meant to get a broader cross-section of a statistically relevant, I know Eric has worked on this as well as others of you, League of Women Voters as well, that would say, all ages, all demographics, all income areas, instead of just having the default people that can make it to City Hall and can show up. And then just another, and this may not be all youth, but at least you could get maybe the 18 plus. Another call that we just had recently with change.org was to do more kind of citizen online convenings where you have a statistic sample, but then other people can participate, and it's almost like a citizen poll. So I do think the city's being proactive in ways to think about how do we get other voices, younger voices, you know, people who traditionally have not been part of the conversation to weigh in.
And if I could just briefly, Madam Mayor, acknowledge, you know, I participated in a public engagement opportunity with city transportation staff at, I want to say, Tarboro Road Community Center and Park. You know, we're in the middle of developing a new active mobility plan for the city. In other words, a new sidewalk and sort of bike lane plan for the entire city. And I remember being at the community center, there were these little girls at a table, you know, kind of participating in their own sort of activity. I think the dad of those girls might even be here tonight. I'm just saying, it's a really strong memory as somebody who, you know, professional life began in the classroom, in the schools. Definitely appreciate this question about what are we doing to engage the folks who we are anticipating will live with this infrastructure in the years ahead. Carmen Cawthon, I think I saw a question from you.
So every time somebody says something, Madam Mayor, I think, oh, I would love to add that into my question. So one of the things that you said was talking about the spaces where we are crossing scars from urban renewal. And so, because I'm a history buff, I would love to know where you see us going in terms of crossing those scars, in terms of stormwater development, because some of the scars in the city have come from a lack of acknowledging that that's where, that those communities that are dealing most strongly with stormwater, that's some more scars. And from something that Eric said, making us a national, international, whatever destination, bringing in what does the Destination 2028 plan do in terms of all of those things, because I think all of that is important. The history is part of the destination piece for a lot of people. They want to know what was there and where is it today? Is it still there? But all of those things I think tie in, and I don't know that we think about all of them tying in. And just what's your thought on that?
Yep. Well, I mean, just starting with the last one, and you know, for those who don't know, Carmen's done a ton of work on the history of Black neighborhoods and just historical, broad history of Raleigh. And I agree with you, anywhere you can incorporate the historical storytelling, I guess even when it comes to floods, right, the sort of public art up at Crabtree Creek where it shows the different levels of where the flooding has happened and sort of the years that happened and what are the stories and sort of legacies of that, and then extending beyond, right, to who are the people impacted and still impacted. I think, you know, on Walnut Creek, I did sit down with, you know, the Partners for Environmental Justice and thinking about, right, there's mitigation strategies, there's adaptive strategies, but then how do you, and I think Reverend Taylor last year, right, talked a lot about this in his talk of the history, the color lines, why, you know, some of these, the developments that tended to be in the lower line, you know, lands that were the formerly enslaved, and that's where they ended up. So telling those stories, right, honestly, and I do think we've started some of that with the, you know, Chavis Dick Strollway, which will have that, the work that's you've done and others in Southeast Raleigh. I think the work at Dick's Park with the descendants of the Spring Hill, and yeah, I mean, sort of modern interpretations that incorporate, right, the natural history, the people history, and how do you bring that to life? And to me, that's those are the special moments in any city when you start understanding that fabric. So, I mean, I think we can make big progress on those kind of things because I mean, it's hard work, but it's not $1 billion of capital expenditure. It's oral histories and interpretive signs and, I mean, all the stuff that we've already started. So I think we'll see a lot more of that, and I hope in the next 4 to 5 years.
I think Kelly is coming this way. There we go.
Hi, I'm Chris Chrisman, and I'm very curious about, is there a design committee and overall, I know there used to be an attractiveness committee, and how's that all working out? It seems relevant.
An attractiveness committee, that would be a dangerous, there is the design review, the appearance commission, right, is what it used to be called, yep. And there is a design review commission. I will say, I recently met with the architects at the U.S. Conference of Mayors. And I know you'll have Mitchell Silver here tomorrow, and we've talked about, should there be a city architect? And there used to be this, there is now an urban projects group, but it used to be an urban design group when Mitchell was here with planning. And, I agree, I think we should have some sort of city architect because there's so many, just more recently we have Fayetteville Street. And we were shown on the Downtown Raleigh Association a series of design adaptations and thoughts, and it was a very design intensive, I mean, some great ideas. I tended to be thinking, well, shouldn't this be more about activation and how do we get people on the street, and can we do fun, active, I mean, like, the pickleball court is the classic example, but how do you balance activation versus design? What kind of design? Who should be making those decisions? So I would like to see us have a little more centralized sort of thought on that design and architecture beyond the design commission. So more to come on that conversation.
Marissa?
This is more of a comment to Mama Kai's question, but I'm a member of NOMA, which is the National Organization of Minority Architects, and one of the best ways to get children who live in Raleigh to, give input in the city is to get them involved eventually in the profession. So every year, every summer, we have a camp called Project Pipeline, and it's geared towards minority students, middle school to high school. And so we give them kind of a very fast-paced crash course in architecture and design. So that might be something in the future of your son's future. But another thing.
Look at that. Community, connection. That's what we do here at Real Matter. That's what we do at Real Matter. Okay, I see a question over here. I'm so close. I'm so close. Oh, you already have a microphone. Look at that. Wow, amazing. I'm going to back up.
Good evening, Mayor, and thank you for your time to come out and be present with us. I am an educator that had the opportunity to bring my students to the recycling plant recently. Matter of fact, it was last week.
Okay.
And it wasn't an environment-based class. It was actually a technology and AI class. And I'm helping them to be able to realize that AI is something that we need to make a part of our everyday lives and not just isolated, just based on technology-based platforms. One thing that stood out to them is not just how wasteful we are, but also how much logistics is involved with that process. The other thing that stood out to them was the condition of the workers. Yep. And I know that that's something that's been a hot topic recently. So I was just wanting to get an idea of, is there a plan in place to have a better balance with the innovation that Raleigh is trying to move forward with, and also the preservation of quality of life for these workers that really are really sacrificing their health and well-being to get rid of our waste for this city.
No, thank you for that. I recently toured the site as well, probably maybe about 6 weeks ago. And for those of you who haven't been in the recycling, I guess the good news is you can see all the different materials and items that people are recycling, that this stuff is not, all the conspiracy theories, that none of this stuff gets recycled, the plastics and all this sorting though, and how much is still, they have an automated machine, but that is much less efficient. And so what you do is you have all these folks, and it's, hot, right, in this facility, sorting through plastics, tin, like all these different items that they're kind of, and it is it's hot, and they have, the breaks. So that is all subcontracted. So I don't know of the immediate plans, but I definitely understand your point on the air conditioning, and I think there's many other, like Alsco, right, the garment factory up on Hillsborough Street where you see people working in the steam and the laundry, and I've seen a lot of Congolese, it looks like women from, and the chicken plant. So there's a lot of tough working conditions still in this country, farm workers, et cetera. But I will follow up and see, I had the same observation you did, what additional things can be done.
I actually have the mic, Nick. I'm over here. Hi. Joan, yes.
Joan, in the
Hi.
back, love that.
Hi, Janet. Just to try to inspire some of the participants, I wanted to talk a little bit more about the physical scars that are related to Western Boulevard and the connection to Dix Park. As you know, we have traffic fatalities and serious injuries that affect Black and brown populations and disabled populations disproportionately. And what do you envision that to look like if you were to provide the participants with some ideas? I have my own, but I'd love to hear yours. So thank you.
Yeah, well, I guess specifically on connecting over Western, we actually have put in grant proposals that were not accepted by the federal government, although I don't know, even had they been accepted, would they have been honored, right? So that would depart from, like, I guess we're here at the platform, Mira, right, which is the apartment complex just behind the Martin Marietta Cinder Mamondi Auditorium, right, which is 300 feet above Western. So you have a natural height elevation that you could then sort of extend out and then drop it down on the other side where you can hit the Greenway, the Rocky Branch in that area near Gateway Plaza Apartments, and then come over right into the park, but beyond the park, which is, important, but there's so much redevelopment going in that old industrial area south of town that you want to reconnect, re-knit together all of that back with the south side of downtown. So I think that's one of the most strategic connections we can make. I personally see it more as like a high line because it's really not, as the crow flies, that far of a distance. So I know people have talked about, I think we need to clean up the street connections, and there's the section by Heritage Park on South Saunders that goes under an underpass. So working with NCDOT on some of these overpasses, underpasses, as we all know, like there's all sorts of regulations on doing anything around state highways. You can talk to Julie White about that tomorrow as well. So getting the ground connections, and that's the Chavis to Dix, but then also trying to get, as the crow flies, sort of walked, elevated, something is what I would envision. And then if, as you noted, we do have a program on Vision Zero in the city of Raleigh, and to your point, I think about 14, somewhere, to 18 people a year, unfortunately, lose their lives who are pedestrians trying to cross roads, and the roads are all tend to be, right, high speed, lots of lanes. People are trying to, like Capitol Boulevard, New Hope Road, you've talked about New Bern. There are certain types of roads, and so working with the state, working with the city, we definitely, I think, have goals. We have working groups, how we get to the point where we can slow this stuff down and get people safely across, building medians and safe harbors. But yeah, we have work to do there.
I have the microphone. I'm right here. Hi, my name is Tiana Lame.
CEO and founder of Environmental Answers. I wanted to say thank you to you for your responsiveness on LinkedIn, because I've asked you questions and you always respond, so I really appreciate your responsiveness. My question has to do with the fact that earlier you mentioned that you were going to have some of the engineers talk to art folks when it comes to the designing part, but a big issue that I struggle with is that environmental answers literally aren't always considered first. So when you brought up the comment about, I guess, Gibson Park in the slides being hot,
Yep.
like, you know, some of the materials that we use, there's science and research about it that's
Yep.
like stuck in the lab. I actually recently took an appointment at NC State to be a lecturer because I'm like, okay, we need to get a lot of this information out of the education system into application here.
Mm-hmm.
And with us being close to all these wonderful universities, I'm just curious how we're getting more of these environmental answers into the building and design we're doing in the built environment. And it's really cool you went to Semper Corps. I went to the Super Trees too. Amazing. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Well, you are right that we have, I mean, it's like having a kid in a candy shop having NC State right next door to us. I mean, what an amazing amount of professionals who do try to get ideas out. I will say with the slides, I went to the playground manufacturers who are European, and I think there was a lot of consideration onto materials. It was a European sort of organic mentality on Gibson Play Plaza, so what you will see is a lot of natural woods, very low plastic. They don't use materials that outgas, and then they do use metal, but they were trying to cover it. So I think there was a lot of thought that goes into it. You know, was it enough? Was it perfect? But there's probably materials that would have different trade-offs in terms of outgassing, and just I think the European mentality of they want kids to have a natural tactile feel. Like it's a very different thing for a 3-year-old to grab a stick or a natural piece of wood versus a piece of, you know, extruded plastic, and they want the kid to have that sense of maybe you get a splinter, but it's real and, you know, it's organic. So so yes, all of these, and you know, trying to work with universities, there's just more we can do there, because I have found as a public official, when you reach out, it's, you know, they're on their academic schedule, and so even the most applied universities have a hard time responding on the pace and scale of sort of day-to-day operational units, but how we work together on these things. Would love any additional ideas.
Hi. I've in Western Boulevard's crossing. I come from Hillsborough Street on a bike, and usually I cross it pulling.
Yep.
But sometimes I go down through campus, through the tunnel, and at Pullen Park at the
Yep.
low end. And is there anything planned there? But that's just came up because everyone's talking about Western Boulevard. And but the other part is been to the play park and the house with all the porches.
Yep.
That's been I try to drag people out there to show them what we have to meet. Let's go meet on the porch. You know?
Yeah.
So that's really a great resource for not just, you know, I've been to Carey's Super Park downtown, but this is spread out more and a little more integrated, and so really congratulations on helping make that happen. The question I have was, what do you see as the next big push, other than the crossing and access to Dix Park, and where's the possibility of the hotel fall into that timeline?
Okay, so in terms of the crossings, and I would say, of course, this affects Shaw University, NC State University, so you've got all, you know, it's a long stretch. So I know the whole Mission Valley intersection is a big one for NC State students trying to cross. Then you've got the Pullen Bridge and the negotiation to expand that and get a walkable pathway. There is a land bridge that's in the master plan for Dix Park. I don't see that anytime soon, just because that's a big complex, and it's not where the main foot traffic is. And then I think the foot passage on South Saunders will be, you know, the first out of the gate, and then hopefully that overline, you know, the High Line kind of connection from Mira would be those 4 I would see happening at some point. And then the hotel at Dix, I think there's a bunch of old buildings. As you know, we've actually put $10 million into demolition budget for the city of Raleigh. because the state will move off Dix Park, I think in about 6 or 7 months. As soon as they move out, those buildings are going to be empty, and you don't want them to, right, immediately deteriorate when the air goes off, and they're all daisy-chained, more information than you wanted. So they're going to demolish the series of buildings out in the big field first. So you'll see those come down, and then I think there will be more effort on all the old buildings on the hill, the sort of center of the old campus, following that. But so I think the next 2 years, you're going to see the demolition.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I think we have time for maybe 2 more questions, if that feels good. I know we've had the mayor on the hot seat here for about nearly 30 minutes. Here's a glass of water. Holy moly. Any other questions? Oh, there we go. Two or three more.
I'm Kim Loftus with Patch Marketing. I have a question about, we talked about the heat island, the heat index. We talked about roads, stormwater. So my question is kind of about both of those things. When we're thinking about those 2 things in general and the fact that we're growing so fast, clearly we're going to have more of all of that. Is there any discussion, or have you heard of anything, or do you know if there's any options for permeable, more environmentally friendly options that will possibly solve both problems? Because as we grow, that's just going to be bigger. And we talked about trees being an option for shade, and this is a little bit of a tangent, but we have a pollen problem here too, which a lot of people know when they move here, they have a big allergy change. Male trees versus female trees are the ones that produce a lot of pollen. So is there any thought about the type of trees that we plant and just any consideration in that?
Yep. So a bunch of questions in there, but just on the trees, you know, there's, in addition to doing this big heat index, there was also a whole tree inventory, and also a lot of work on what trees are more sustainable, native trees. I mean, there's a whole, oak trees, the namesake of the city, are the most incredible trees in terms of biodiversity and suitability. So I think the city is doing a lot on guidance on what to plant, and the whole male-female, of course, going to school in Philly where they planted those female ginkgos and the whole city smells like, it's horrible. Hopefully we not make those kind of mistakes. So, and then on your infrastructure, I think this whole idea of infrastructure lane and multi-functionality, right, in cities that as you get denser, you just don't have the luxury anymore of a whole separate stormwater pond and a whole separate road, and then that you're trying to combine all of these. So I think that, with the high performance treatments, permeability, having the stormwater, underneath, also seeing these storm water gardens alongside roads. There's actually some good pictures that weren't included here on that. So just the layering of infrastructure, which gets into more complexity and potential cost, but as we get denser, so I think there's a lot of conversation.
Hello.
All right. We have.
Hello, this is William Dodge. We're public artists, kind of gang of 3. We do public art and public art planning. I just had a quick question about the Dix Park demolition project. Has there been any consideration about just selectively demolishing the interiors of those buildings and then leaving the exteriors as ghosts? I've spent a lot of time living in Europe and working all over the world where there's been bombings and things like that have happened. And they make really beautiful places for urban gardens and harks back to the history of the place, and I just was curious if that's been considered, because I understand why the city's considering demolishing those or planning to demolish them, but I also think it's a huge missed opportunity.
Yep, there's been a lot of conversation on each of those buildings, and of course there's, I forget how many, 100-something buildings. So I think the ones out in the big field, the master plan really is to recreate this massive, vast green space. So in that area, having even the sort of ghosts, and I know what you mean about the architecture, I don't think in that area they considered it, but there is consideration on some of the more architecturally, beautiful and significant buildings down on the other side, and even on the old cottages, there's some really incredible artwork where they've taken the bricks out of, things and made it into Vortex House, or there's examples from Houston. So I do think there's a lot of creativity on how some of those buildings could be repurposed, especially things like, the steam plant, which is just a funky, and then some of those old carriage houses and metal shops. I mean, they're just amazing spaces that can really add character, whether or not you fully outfit them, right? Or you just have, there's been some discussion, the skate park folks would love to have like where the skate park goes in through some of those buildings, and sort of more of that archaeological, right, sort of salvage feel to it. So I'm sure there's a lot more to come.
I believe we have time for one more question.
Thank you, Mayor. Denny Murphy. I'm a former chairman of the Appearance Commission and the Environmental Board from years ago. I want to thank you for all you've done and the concern about the future of Raleigh, and especially rainwater, because I was Crabtree Creek Stream Watch back in the 70s and 80s. That dates me quite a bit. But I wanted to point out that Raleigh has gone through and approved a low-impact development stormwater management technique to replace impervious surface with pervious surface. And back in 2011, it was first proposed to take the requirement for curb and gutter out of the streets manual. We've done all that and approved it, but we've still got the requirement for curb and gutter if a developer isn't careful and doesn't understand that he has the opportunity to no longer channel water back into the creeks as fast as possible. And I would like to point out to the students here and stuff that we have made progress on that. We are really trying to get a handle on the stormwater rise and the floodplain, and with the new study being done for the green print of Raleigh, I have great hope for where we're heading. So thank everybody, but be aware that there are tools available to reduce the pervious surface in our city today.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for your work over the decades on the Appearance Commission and environmental issues. All right, well, thank you all for coming, and
a round of applause for the mayor. Wow. Can we just take a moment to acknowledge the level of discourse and dialogue that unfolded tonight? We have a teacher, here with us asking about what are we doing to take care of those who are working on behalf of the city. We've got architects, we have designers, we have a housing policy, advocate. We've got a former chair of the Appearance Commission. I see behind him the current chair of Raleigh's Planning Commission. I see you, Nicole Bennett. I see you, Nicole Bennett. Yeah, you can make some noise for Nicole Bennett. And then, meanwhile, in front of us, the future. The future, in all seriousness. We have students with us this week and next thinking deeply, spending their time, their energy about the issues we are confronting. And frankly, not even just here in the city of Raleigh, right? This is across the country. But this is the capital city. And there is no reason in the world why we cannot take the lead in being creative and thoughtful about our future growth and development. And on that note, it is my pleasure and privilege to acknowledge again that this conversation will continue tomorrow night, right next door at Junction West. And I should mention that our friends with the Moon Room Jazz Club will be popping up with us So if you are at all interested in a live music scene with some live jazz before you hear from some current civic leaders in our community, I'm just saying, it should be a good time. It should be a good time. And then even beyond that, for 5 more days free, and open to the public, open to all of you, we have architects and designers coming in from Argentina, Miami, London, Toronto, Alabama. Yeah, I'm going to end on Alabama. I mean, they're doing things, people. And you have an opportunity to come through, to listen, to learn, and to engage, and to get involved. So let me wrap up by thanking all of you for showing up, for paying attention, for participating in building our city. One more round of applause for all of you. And we'll see you tomorrow night back at Real Matter 2025.